Welcome back to the In Between Overs podcast. We're your host of today's play. I'm Taran.
And I'm Ishaan.
Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel.
And the year 2026 begins with a series loss, a ODI series loss against that team again, New Zealand. I feel like New Zealand have had a great success in India in the last few years, starting off the year with a ODI series win in India, practically playing what some are describing as a D team. Shocks all over, some great individual performances, don't get me wrong, from India. And obviously New Zealand playing out of their socks, but pretty shameful day. India losing 2-1 in this ODI series against New Zealand. Taran, what were your initial thoughts on today's play?
I got one name for you, Daryl Mitchell. Series of a lifetime, averaging over 100, 200s in the series, should have had 3 and 3, and literally was the difference between New Zealand winning the series and India losing it. It was an insane performance for the ages. I feel like this is the best I've seen him bat. I watched his innings in the highlights, and the way he was timing the ball, the way he was maneuvering the ball, the way he was attacking the spinners, the fastballs were so easy for him to play. It just felt like he stood between India and New Zealand. He stood between India winning the series, because if it wasn't for him, I felt like India would have had a better edge. But he held one end and allowed the other batters to bat around him. In each game, you had different New Zealand batters stepping up, and India just had no answer for Daryl Mitchell. And it was his series, and is why I feel New Zealand have won the series hands down.
Yes, no, for sure. He definitely had that insane of a series, again with a huge score. But it was also surprising that it did seem like India just couldn't figure him out all three games. It was just difficult to get him out. And to your point, the spinners were not really doing their jobs in the middle overs. But we'll talk about that a little bit later. To your point, you got to give flowers where it's due. Some great performances by New Zealand that really did, allow them to take the game away and series from Team India.
Yeah, you got to give a shout out to all the new guys coming into the New Zealand team. They came into the series as complete underdogs, as you mentioned. No Kane Williamson, no Tom Latham. There's a couple other misses that I'm not naming. Mitchell Santner, the captain, missing. So they came with a younger squad in terms of experience, not necessarily age. And I think that showed. And I'm saying that in the sense that even though they were inexperienced, they weren't young. So they had experience from playing cricket for so long. And you saw that in Christian Clark as well as Jayden Lennox. Jayden Lennox was super impressive with his spin. And again, we'll talk more about the bowling later, but terrific performance of this New Zealand team. No one gave them a chance. They were fighting backs against the wall, being one down in the series, and they come back from that to comprehensively win the second game. And then the third game, more of a nail biter, but they were able to hold their nerve and pull it off.
Yeah, no, exactly that. Where do you want to begin? Do you want to look at sort of India's batting or great chase at the end or great attempt at a chase or, start off with the batting performance that New Zealand had?
Yeah, I feel like we should start with New Zealand putting up 337, because I felt that in a final, which you can call this a final because you're playing for the series, right? There is always scoreboard pressure, and to put up 337 after the start that India had in terms of getting New Zealand down to 58 for 3 in 12 overs, there's no way New Zealand should have scored 337 from there. And to not be able to take any wickets during the middle overs, to have your two premier spinners for the last, what, 2 3 years, Jadeja more than that, and for them to just bowl 12 overs, go from 89 runs between them, and just get one wicket and not even look like getting wickets, was just frustrating to see.
Yeah, it was disappointing, especially if you look at the fact that the New Zealand openers didn't obviously have the best series. It was that sort of middle order that really kept them in most of the matches. But if you look at this game in particular, you're playing in indoor. It is a flattish pitch. The last thing you want to do is let batters set. And when you're in those middle overs and you bring on, for example, Nitish Kumar Reddy, he's bowling overs, but he's not getting any wickets. You allow the batters to really set in. It's not a 20-20 match, it's a 50-50 match. So you have time. And then to your point as well, as you alluded earlier, when you have the spinners coming in those overs as well, you need them to take wickets. rotational strike and maybe holding off in an over or two is just not going to cut it when you are in a flattish pitch like indoor, when batting will just get easier. And we saw that here today. The batsmen took their patience, they were able to build those partnerships, and it was strictly just unfortunately those mid overs. And I did see a stat. I believe the stat was, I forgot how many overs the spinners bowled all series. I think it was maybe over 50, or at least overs all series, and they only had 3 wickets. That's a place for concern.
That's a crazy stat. That's a crazy. I did not know that. And that has been that has been a negative, a major negative for India during the series. It's the spinners just not having any impact whatsoever. And you'd think in Indian conditions, subcontinental wickets. Now I know India tends to play on flat wickets, but generally foreign batters, especially New Zealanders, foreign batters in general, non-Asian batters, they aren't the best against spin, regardless of what wicket you play on. Spinners are able to dictate terms in terms of even varying the pace, length, and line, and throwing in googlies here and there in the case of Kuldeep. But nothing seemed to be effective. What also shocked me was Jaddu coming into the attack after the 30th over. I did not understand that. I don't know what the idea was there, given the fact that Jaddu is a left arm spinner taking the ball away from the right handers, anyways. Why wouldn't you bowl him earlier? That didn't really make sense to me. I don't know if it was a captaincy or a tactical error on Shubman's part. Not sure why he held him back that long. But all in all, it was frustrating to see the spinners not have any impact.
Yes, no, exactly that. But as you mentioned earlier, it was that batting that, again, they had to execute. The batsmen were patient. You have experienced batsmen, in the likes of Joe Mitchell and Glenn Phillips, right? They are experienced on that side of New Zealand, and they kind of held it down. We do know as well that India was missing Jasprit Bumrah and Hardik Pandya, two, marquee players in the white ball setup. But India should have the depth. India really had the template for the white ball format, but just seemed like, if you look at this series, and even the Australia series and the South African series that concluded, you know, India was not getting those convincing victories as perhaps they were getting in the Cricket World Cup 2023 or the following Champions League trophy. Sorry, the Trophy that was concluded last year.
Yeah, so the your point on Jasprit Bumrah, I know India is missing him, but India is also choosing not to play him. So meaning they have to figure it out with these bowlers. And they played Arshdeep Singh today, which I think was the right decision. They should have done that from the start. Prasidh Krishna is a fourth choice seamer amongst the seamers, the choices of seamers, in my opinion. I think Harshit Rana has proven his worth. He may be leaking runs, but he takes wickets, and as we saw today, which we'll talk about, he's able to bat. He's able to provide substance with the bat at that lower order spot. So I don't think you can leave him out. And then Siraj is Siraj. I feel after, if you're not playing Bumrah, you need someone you can rely on, and Siraj is that guy. And he bowled well today. I believe his economy was 4 and over. Yeah, 4.3. Took a wicket, and he bowled really well. He's the one who got Daryl Mitchell out finally with a well bowled, slower bouncer. So I feel that this reasoning around Bumrah being rested and Hardik Pandya not being there, India's got to figure it out. They are choosing not to play these players. I think Hardik Pandya is rested too, if I'm not mistaken. And so, if that's the case, I don't think that can be an excuse anymore. You just have to figure it out with other players.
No, that's very fair. You have a marquee side like New Zealand coming in. The team is under pressure. This coach is under pressure. You kind of have to, show that you can win these home series at least. India's not, doing any favors of losing them. So no, I agree. So New Zealand, leaving the scoreboard with 337 on the board, as you mentioned, there was that scoreboard pressure. How did you think of India's start? Obviously, I would say the openers on India's side as well probably didn't have the best series on their end.
We No one has spoken about the fact that Rohit Sharma has been missing this entire series. Like, where is he? Where is he? And we needed at least one innings, and this was the time to do it because of the fact that India were chasing 338. and he tried. I believe he got up to the short ball,
Soft
but it
dismissal.
stopped.
Yep.
Yeah, soft dismissal, and that word soft dismissal, you can apply that to a lot of the batters today. You look at KL Rahul's soft dismissal, seemed like he was too early on the ball. Then Shreyas Iyer, another soft dismissal. Even Nitish Kumar Reddy looked so damn good, and then pulled the ball straight to mid wicket. The only guy inside the circle on the leg side, and he pulls it straight to him. It was really frustrating. Even Harshit Rana missing out on a full toss. It just felt like, again, destiny, kismet, call it what you want. It felt like New Zealand were destined to win this game with some of the breaks they were getting. Like that Harshit Rana dismissal, just millimeters or inches from being a no ball, inches being from the catch being taken from off the ground. But again, phenomenal performance by New Zealand. But just go back to the original conversation around the start. So Rohit Sharma missed out today. Shubman Gill got a peach of a ball. I think his dismissal was the only one where you just have to say well bowled and just take the L. Just take the L with that dismissal and just watch the rest of the game. Like there's nobody. I think Kohli was the only one today that would have survived that ball. That was amazing. But yeah, not the best start from India, and again it fell on the shoulders of Kohli to take the burden during the chase.
Yeah, and I think we talked about this as well earlier. It was, potentially it was in vain. Let's just talk about it, but it was a delight to watch. And tell me if I'm wrong. It did send us back a little bit in the nostalgia of, oh, Kohli's gonna chase this. He's gonna do it.
You could see the calculations being done when he's batting. His innings was so Kohli-esque in chases where he started off getting on top of the bowlers. Then he saw that India were losing wickets. He consolidated. I think he there was a stat where his next 50 balls he scored one boundary. That's after KL Rahul got out. He scored one boundary, but he still scored 47 runs out of those 52 balls that he faced. And then once he got to the point where the run rate started lifting, he took off. And I think he went from 70-ish to 100 within a space of 15 balls around that. So just his ability to shift gears was reminiscent of Kohli of the past. I started dreaming that is this destiny for Kohli? It seems like we're gonna get one of those innings where, if you recall, the one that came to mind for me was that chase against Sri Lanka at Hobart, I think, in Australia many years ago, where they needed the bonus point to reach the finals in the Tri Series, and him just flaying Malinga all over the park. I don't know why that came to mind, but I was like, are we going to see one of those where he just completely takes over? You have an inexperienced attack, and it just felt like it was going to happen. But, once again, you just got to give a shout out to and flowers to New Zealand. They held their nerve and they got him out right at that moment where you felt it was all on Kohli. That was it. And they got him out and the game was done.
No, no, it was nice to get that sort of nostalgic feeling back. Now, again, looking at the results, keeping in mind as we talked about those, soft dismissals. Obviously, Rohit Sharma having a light series. If you think about sort of what the ODI narrative was in the last few series, everyone was talking about moving away from Virat Kohli and Rohit Sharma. That was it. It's like, it's a ODI, it's another white ball team. We should move away from, some of the older players. Looking back at the last few series now, it does not seem like Rohit Sharma and Virat Kohli are the problem. It seems like, there's maybe perhaps pressure on the middle over bowling that India needs to take a look at in order to, be that unstoppable force. What is your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think India having that age-old issue of that fifth and sixth bowler not being that penetrative with the ball. This has been an issue in the past with previous Indian teams as well.
Yep, under
And
Dhoni.
again, yeah, under Dhoni, we've seen it before. We've seen this story before, and it's back, and it feels like it's never left. It feels like it did leave when Hardik Pandya was there. And again, I feel like we say this so many times where India is missing a major all-rounder in the team. Not a spinning all-rounder, but a fast bowling all-rounder. NKR again showing glimpses of it, but not that penetrative with the ball. Maybe again he needs more experience, he needs more time with the ball, maybe develop some different balls, some different plans around getting batsmen out, but he was able to bowl 8 overs today, but it didn't really feel like he was ever going to take a wicket. It just felt like they were milking him in his first 4 overs. I think he only gave 17 runs, and then once they got a hang of his bowling, it carted him around the park for his next four. I think he was hit for 36 in the next four. So that's been a major issue for India this series. Granted, they are missing Washington Sundar, who got injured, and so I feel like he would have been a difference maker because we saw him in Australia too. He's been in form both with the ball and the bat when
Hmm.
needed. And he has been hard to play because he's been maintaining those test line and lengths with the ball, even in one-day cricket. And I feel like India really missed him in this series. And he's starting to now, in my eyes, for me, he seems to be. I know Akshar is injured, but he seems to be the primary spin bowling all rounder in this team right now. Jadoo will always be a goal, but Jadoo's not in form right now, and we definitely miss Washi. So that's what I felt was the issue with India this series with regards to that. They not being able to be penetrative with the ball in the middle overs. And that created a toll on the batters when they needed to chase.
Yes, no, exactly that. To your point, yeah, Washi, the inclusion of Washi, we would hope, would have would have looked to gotten those wickets in those middle overs. You would hope so, but I see what you mean. But in terms of, keeping the limelight on the all-rounders, you got to tip your hat to, some performances this game. And I think there was a performance from Mr. Rana that I think a lot of people did tip their hats to. A grade 50, I think his maiden 50 for Team India. He was also part of that sort of excitement at the tail end of the chase there.
It felt like the momentum completely shifted towards India while he was there. And I even heard it on comps. It was Ian Smith saying that New Zealand, the heads were down. This was a couple balls before he got out when when he hit a six to get to 50. You could hear the crowd. The crowd was fully in the game, and they got the required rate down to I believe it was 60-ish from 40 odd balls, which is a walk in the park in this day and age when, especially in T20 cricket. And so you felt that India had the momentum completely, and then they lost it when Harshit Rana got out. But his innings really gave India belief, and you saw that on the field.
Yes, yeah, and it was nice to see again. We know we were pretty critical of Harshit Rana, but he is super young, and you just hope that sort of these experiences, especially with the bat, we see when we see what he did with the ball, but with the bat, he's really able to take those experiences and build on them. Because as you mentioned, India needs those all rounders.
Yeah, NKR was the other one. He was under pressure. Clearly,
Yep.
I would have thought he would have been under pressure this innings. India's four down. They needed something from him. He hasn't given much to India in any format in the recent bit with the bat, and he stepped up. He stepped up. He looked really good. You could tell Kohli was in his ear during the partnership. Same with Harshit, but it helped them. It seemed he played really well. His choice of shot selections were really good. We saw some classic NKR shots with his sixes, his pulls, his slog sweeps off of Glenn Phillips was really good as well. And again, but an unfortunate dismissal. Just couldn't pick the bones off that ball. A shout out to the bowler. I think it was Christian Clark again, if I'm not mistaken, who has been and we have to talk about the New Zealand bowlers. We'll get there, but yeah, that was a good ball to get him out because it seemed like he was onto it too early.
Yeah, yeah, a great thing, great six to catch his 50 as well. Again, he's also, I think he's only 22 or 23 as well, super young. And you would just hope that, he builds on those performances. I know we think about his century in Australia all the time, but, he needs his 50s and 60s to come in as well to sort of build that reputation of being a foundational player, or sorry, foundational all-rounder in India's setup. Let's switch gears now to some of the highlights in the New Zealand bowlers. Obviously, some new bowlers coming in. But what were your thoughts on their performances?
Christian Clark and Jayden Lennox, I mentioned them at the start of the show today. They are the standouts for me. Christian Clark is doesn't seem like he has anything special. He's just able, he has that knack, it seems, to take wickets, and that's what he's done all series. I think he's averaged 2 or 3 wickets a game. I'm just pulling up his stats right now. He took 3 wickets in this game, and he takes wickets at times when partnerships are building, which is awesome for New Zealand. which is probably why he got picked. Yeah, so he's taken 7 wickets in the series. He took 3 in the last game as well, which New Zealand won. And I remember those ones were timely and big dismissals. I believe he took the big guns out. He took Kohli out, I remember, in the last game for sure.
Sure, sorry, this game too
Shreyas are in this game, and he broke that partnership by
with Reddy.
getting NKR out.
Yep.
Yeah, by getting NKR out. So he's been a standout. And then Jayden Lennox. We talked about in the first game where they played their young leggy, Aditya, and he seemed like he needs a little more work in terms of establishing lines and lines. Could be his first game, who knows? But then New Zealand felt they had to play someone else instead of him, and they ended up playing Lennox, and he it seemed like he's a vet. The way he's bowling. First of all, what's up with these New Zealand left arm spinners with their shuffling to the crease and delivering the ball? He looks exactly like Mitchell Santner.
Yeah, I think it's the pace. I think the pace is what gets India, the little unorthodox, but to your point, it's definitely an interesting sort of shuffle approaching the ball.
Yeah, yeah, but his length and line, his ability to control that was exceptional. Again, nothing over the top, no googlies, no major changes in turning the ball, just pure length and line, deception with pace and flight. Just a very classical spinner in all sense of the word. And he really made a difference today because he was able to keep that run rate down, got 2 wickets, and on a pitch in a stadium where the boundaries were short and it was easy-ish to hit sixes. You saw that with Kuldeep and Jaddu getting carted around the park, and you have Lennox here playing his second ODI, and he goes for 42 runs in 10.
Just goes to show, whatever team arrives on your shores, you cannot take them lightly. And if you are, handicapped without Bumrah or Hardik Pandya, you cannot look to experimental players because these other teams are coming to win. And New Zealand, again, just one of those teams that's a pest for Team India really recently as well. We're having that upset in red ball cricket, now having an upset in white ball cricket. I think this was after a number of years as well. Toronto, I think they were 20 years that series win.
37, 37 years. 37 years, first series win in India. And I love how the Indian television Star Sports displayed after the win, displayed series won by India, 7. Series won by New Zealand, 1. Why? Just put the fact that New Zealand won the series and it's 2-1 New Zealand. Like, why do you have to say that India's won this 7 times? You lost. India lost, and just take the L. I didn't quite like that. I think they should have just displayed it as New Zealand winning the series. There's no reason to bring up the fact that India's won 7 series. Like, yeah, we know India's dominated in India, but let's give New Zealand the flowers. Like, India lost fair and square. They had opportunities and they weren't able to do it.
I know, and sometimes that echo chamber is really detrimental to the team. You have to have that critical lens on yourselves, and it does seem like maybe India's missing that a little bit recently. You would hope that there's more inward looking, and you would just hope that, they take this way more important than another series loss because again, losing at home in white ball against a D-rated New Zealand side, no one was really expecting that.
So where does this leave this Indian one-day squad? So as you said earlier, last 3 series with Shubman at the helm, and all 3, I believe. Yeah, losing 2, one of them, yes, in Australia, and the other one against South Africa, which again could have gone either way. South Africa were
Hmm.
missing some key players. Temba Bavuma, I believe, didn't play all the
Yep.
games. A couple other players they missed. I think Rabada was out for a couple games, if I'm not mistaken, right? So that could have gone either way. India won 2-1 in that one. Wasn't as comprehensive as it looked. Where does this leave this one-day squad? And this is 3 series after winning the Champions Trophy.
No, I think it's super interesting. I think now for sure a lot of the eyes are going to be on the T20 format, at least initially. I think there is going to be a little more scrutiny when India goes in towards England in the summer, in this year's summer. I do think from a batting front, India will stay similar. The formation will be same. I think the formula works. I do think you stick with Rohit Sharma, you stick with Shubman Gill at the top, with followed by Virat Kohli. Shreyas Iyer, KL Rahul, and then you have, the all-rounders coming in. Hope Hardik Pandya is set. But I think as you mentioned earlier, it's those bowling options, those middle over bowling options that India needs to scrutinize. I know we talked about, Kuldeep Yadav performing extremely well. He always does. Whenever a big tournament comes, he does always sort of show up. But, Jadeja, from at least from the white ball front, just seems like he's dipped in form. So maybe India's look at that. But yeah, I think looking ahead, it's going to be those all-rounding bowling options where India is probably going to make the most moves.
Does Jadu retain his spot if Akshar Patel comes back, especially?
I think it is this the answer to this will depend on if Washington is actually fit as well. I think that's going to be a big thing as well. But I think if you don't have Washington or Akshar, you're gonna have to play Jadeja.
Yeah, I can see that. I can see that because the coffers are thin when it comes to. I was talking to my dad about it with regards to other spin bowling all rounders. I couldn't really think of anybody else other than these three.
Yep.
There was no, and you saw India picked Ayush Badoni, who's more of a batter, and you could call him a part-time spinner. Again, I don't know if he bowls a lot. If someone knows in the comments, please let us know. But he seems more of a batsman than even a batting all rounder, if you will. And I couldn't think of anybody else. I tried to think about the IPL, but I couldn't think of any other player that is a bowling all rounder, spin bowling all rounder. And I hope we get some soon because the last thing we want is to go down in stocks with that. Because that's been something that India have always had, a spin bowling all rounder for the last 10, 15 or more years. So we wouldn't want that to reduce. We're already having issues with the batting or the fast bowling all rounders. So yeah, I see that. I see Jadu staying as well if Akshar is not fit and Washi as well. That's two key bowlers already missing out.
How do you feel GG's performances have been the last ODI series? I know we talked about the last three, but do you think there's any pressure on him?
I think there's always pressure on him. I think there's more and more pressure on him. I feel that tactically tactically maybe things need to shift a bit, whether it's on the field, do something different, throw different variations in terms of, like, I don't know how much of this has to do with just the captain, right? I feel like on the field the captain makes those decisions, but I'm sure it's in conversation with the coach, right? In
Mhm.
terms of like what strategies, what plans to lay out. So I don't know. I don't know. I feel like they need to throw some different looks at teams with regards to plans with the ball because yeah, the last three ODI series, that's 9 games, and they've only won 4 out of the 9 games. So yeah, it there is definitely pressure on Gigi.
Yeah, there's pressure there, little, glimpses of concern as well. But, I do think India overall does look pretty solid in the ODI format. You obviously had some, poor batting performances today. Maybe not the best opening partnerships this entire series. But I think India does have the ingredients to really have a World Cup winning ODI squad. So we'll look forward ahead.
Yeah, yeah, I think they're 1 or 2 players away. And I think once they figure out that 11, I think they'll be good to go. Again, injuries don't help, but again, they're resting players. Should they not rest players? That's a question that needs to be asked as well. Maybe you play your best 11 at all times whenever possible. But that's international cricket. You got to figure out that balance.
Leagues and load management. I love it.
Awesome. Well, next up is the T20 series. That's going to be a lot of fun. Completely different team that we're going to see with Team India. Some players are going to carry over, but more or less different squad. We're looking forward to it. That is going to be a hell of a series. I'm not sure if New Zealand are playing more or less the same players. Probably a good time to check that. But it should be a fun series because New Zealand are currently having their T20 league at home. So a lot of the players that are playing the T20 series are probably going to be in form for with regards to the T20 format, having played their own league back home. So that should be a great series. We got 5 T20 guys to watch, and we look forward to bringing it to you. Until then, That's tough.